Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I want to start off by saying that my husband was the one to pursue me in the beginning. We'd been married for a year and had dated for only a year before getting married. I'm 23, female, an elementary teacher, and my husband, 47, male, is the vice president of a law firm. Yes, we have a huge age gap between us, but he's such a charmer, and I fell for him instantly. We met from a fender bender incident when I accidentally rammed into the back of his car in a parking lot. After getting out of our vehicles to check the damage, I guess he liked what he saw and told me that he wasn't going to have me pay for the damages. He then asked for my number and said I could just repay him by going to dinner with him instead. He doesn't look his age, and at first I thought he was at least mid-30s. So we go to dinner the next day, and while getting to know each other, age comes into the conversation. He was shocked to find out how young I was and said he thought I was at least 27, and I was taken back to find out how old he was. We decided to continue with the dinner, and then it just seemed as if the conversation was flowing well enough where we didn't want the age gap to be a factor in us getting to know one another. So we decided to continue to see each other and try to get to know each other to see where it would take us. It led us straight to the altar a year later, and despite my family not approving, they still gave us their blessing and behaved at the wedding. His family seemed fine with the whole relationship, and I became really close with his family. The only thing that began to bug me was the fact that he never wanted me to come to his job. He's been by the school I teach at a couple of times to bring me lunch, but when I want to do the same with bringing him lunch, he says that the company is so focused on their clients that they don't allow spouses or family members to come into the office. He even said how big the law firm is on confidentiality, something I could understand since his employees handle really sensitive personal matters when it comes to their clients. I let it go until a while later when I offered to drive to the office so I could follow him to dinner, since he had made reservations at a restaurant nearby the office. He got upset and told me that he had already explained that I couldn't come into the building. I told him that parking in the parking lot to wait for him was not coming into the building, and he just demanded that I don't come near his office. At this point, I become suspicious with thinking he's having an affair, and I actually hired a PI to tail him because he had me so sure that he was cheating on me with like a coworker or an employee. He comes back clean with the PI, as the PI tells me that my husband goes to work and does nothing but work while he's there, and the only people he's seeing are people at the firm, platonically. I felt bad for thinking he'd cheat on me, and I pretty much dropped the issue of not being able to come to his work company. Even when I found out that he has a colleague whose wife comes up there to bring his lunch every Tuesday and Thursday, I didn't mention it to my husband, and I let it go. I just shook it off as the wife being someone who probably worked at the firm before, and everyone knew her, so it wasn't a big deal for her to come up there. And then finally, a week ago, my husband comes home and tells me that his law firm is having this big charity event. He's taking me to the event, and I was just excited because I thought it would be nice to finally meet his coworkers and employees. He made me wear something very conservative and even had me wear light makeup, saying that I didn't need so much makeup for a work event. I didn't even fight him on it because I figured he knew best when it came to his company's events and was just ready to go. I remember walking into the event with him and how his entire body just stiffens all of a sudden when we walk into the room. He appears nervous and uncomfortable, making me wonder what's wrong with him. He even left me standing there by myself a few times to go get us something to drink or to go say hi to the president of the company. I noticed that any time that he mingled with someone, he would go off to speak to them and not take me with him. At this point, I'm feeling so uncomfortable and out of place, ready to leave, when suddenly he returns to my side and asks me if I'm hungry. Before we head to the buffet table, we are stopped by this man and his date as they greet him and then wonder who I am. Before I can introduce myself, he says that I'm his little sister. I immediately giggle with thinking he's joking until I realize that he's serious. He then excuses us away from the couple and pulls me into an empty hallway to talk to me. He says that I need to go along with saying I'm his younger sister tonight and that he'll explain why once we get home. But at that point, I wanted him to explain himself right now because I had been fighting back tears with feeling so humiliated. Imagine being so excited to meet your husband's colleagues just for him to introduce you as his sister. I'm sorry, but that's weird and disgusting to me, and he owed me an explanation for this. He skates around the question, refuses to answer me, and then has the nerve to say that I'm being ridiculous before walking off and leaving me in the hallway alone. I return to the event and decide to go to the bar to order a drink before I went to make my plate to eat. At the bar, I meet this handsome guy, 30 male, who introduces himself as one of the lawyers at the firm. I tell him my name and we start talking about our careers. He says how he loves kids and can't wait to meet that special person so that he can start a family. And I told him that I also wanted kids one day. Next thing I knew, I was just hanging out at the bar and holding conversations with the gentleman as the hours rolled by. When the guy offered for us to exchange numbers because his sister was trying to transfer his niece to a new school and he liked the sound of the school I teach at, that I told him about, my husband interrupts the conversation. He asks me, "What am I doing?" And I tell him that I am giving the man my contact information for his sister to contact me about the school. The man then greets my husband and asks him, does he know me, as he's never seen me before and had wondered before approaching me at first if I was a new hire at the firm. And before my husband can speak, I told the man that I'm his little sister after handing him the napkin with my name and phone number on it. My husband didn't say one word to me as we left, and even when we got in the car, on the way home, he suddenly explodes in this rage about how I introduced myself as his sister, and I was confused because did he not lecture me that I needed to go with the flow of being introduced as such? AITA for telling the colleague of my husband's that I was my husband's little sister, even though my husband demanded I do so at the event? I'm wondering this while booking an appointment to see a divorce lawyer, by the way. I was going to update sooner, but things became too crazy on the home front. My husband and I are like warring enemies at home right now, and it's been 2 weeks since the event. He still won't let it go that I introduced myself as his little sister when he had done it first and had wanted it to be like that for the entire event. He said that I only did it to exchange numbers with another man and went on to badmouth the guy, saying all of these horrible things about him. I don't agree with what he says about the man being a lazy worker because I've been in contact with the man since the event and he definitely seems like a hard worker. He helped set up a lunch for his sister and I to meet so we could discuss what she was looking for when it came to the perfect school for her daughter. The difficulties she mentions that her daughter has is actually something that most of the students have in my classroom, and my class is the preferred choice when it comes to first graders needing, extra assistance in reading. The sister definitely wanted her daughter in my class, and I told her that I would take special care of her and told her about the best way to enroll her daughter. My husband doesn't look at the lunch as it being between the sister and me, but as me being around the man that he told me to stay away from. Again, I had lunch with the sister and not him. I'm at my wit's end and think I might actually be done with him. It's bad enough that I felt humiliated with the way he introduced me at a work event, but to get upset because I'm trying to help his colleague's sister is ridiculous. So, the unexpected happened. My last post 3 months, I felt so miserable because of constantly arguing with my husband and him getting mad at me being around his colleague, even though I had lunch with his sister. So I got fed up, and 2 days after the fight about the lunch with the sister, I packed my stuff and left. I was able to quickly lease a nice apartment, and my husband is being so stubborn. He's telling me not to ever come back if I didn't come back within a week. A week later, he was served separation papers and went ballistic. Then, to really get under my skin, he decides to ask out one of the teachers at the school I work at, and then has the nerve to become upset when I went out to coffee with the colleague he wanted me to stay away from. I then had a leaky pipe in my apartment, and my husband refused to come to fix it, saying for me to come back home. I didn't have money for a plumber because he removed my name from our joint account, where most of our money is, just so I could come crawling back home. Since he wouldn't help me with the pipe, I called the colleague and he came over right away to fix the pipe himself. When I fell into a depression and wouldn't even eat, his colleague was right there to help me through it, while my husband said I was being dramatic and that I'd be happier if I just came on home. NTA, and I hope you know that. Your husband practically emotionally abused you, in not so many words, to agree to being referred to as his little sister. And once you do, it's a problem? Your husband is pretty immature for his age. Such a great ending to a disastrous story. It seems your husband avoided you coming to his job because he was too embarrassed to introduce you due to your much younger age. If the age gap was a problem for him, he should have never pursued you further in the first place. Hello, Reddit. I'm 23, female, and finishing up 2 science degrees at university. I needed one more class this semester to qualify for my final aid level, and I'm already taking a lot of difficult courses, so I chose to do an intro-level still life course as something easier for me that would provide a form of closure to the trauma I experienced as a teen. The class has 9 students in it, and most of them are a few years younger than me. Almost everyone except one other student is in either animation or fine arts. So I'm definitely out of place in a couple of ways. Some info onto my background. I was in a private academy from 12 to 18 where students around the globe could get specialized education in certain subjects. I was not a prodigy, but I did show a natural talent, love for art, and was placed in an advanced program for it. I had a horrible time in the program, despite being one of the top students in my age group, and acquired complex trauma from various forms of abuse I experienced during the time I was enrolled. I dropped out before graduation and have not done much art since, but have had extensive therapy. I emailed my professor at the start of the semester to explain my background to him. He said that it was fine, thanked me for letting him know, and confirmed that it wouldn't affect anyone's grade except my own. So far, we've submitted a good amount of projects, and I'm one of 2 students with an A. We can't see who got what grades online, but we can see the highest, lowest, average, and most common grades. A small group of people have made a variety of comments about how our professor is going easy on me because I'm not an art student, how I'm clearly cheating, I should be failing, I have the weakest work, etc. Last week, a lot of people were struggling with the new medium and needed help. Our professor took one look at my work, said it was great, and moved on. The next person, Claire, 18, made a comment that I was cheating using my phone. It was confiscated, And because I wasn't using it to cheat, my quality remained the same and I got it back. We were then cleaning up at the end of class, and one of my friends, Brent, asked if I worked with this medium before. Claire once again accused me of cheating, and I explained to them that no, I wasn't cheating and that I was an art student in high school. I was called that kid with no friends who ate paint for lunch and accused me of cheating again. I shared a small amount of info about the program I was in with Brent. Claire went ballistic on me. I was called a variety of names, told I should have gone over my history at the start of class, and called selfish for taking up space that could be used for someone who actually needed to be there. Our professor stepped in, and according to Brent, there was a lecture on professional conduct at the end of class. I can't help but feel like an a-hole for not being transparent with everyone. AITA? NTA, your professor was aware of your background. If they were okay with it, then you are good. You don't owe anyone else your life history. Claire sounds very insecure about her own work. NTA, you are not responsible in the least for your classmates' behavior. When you say your lack of transparency resulted in X, Y, and Z, it suggests to me that you have absorbed the message that you are somehow responsible for other people's actions. That is never true. But I often encounter people in your age group who feel that way, especially women, because a lot of adults lay that on kids. Think of this as a time to practice letting go of that. Also, it sounds like this incident has you feeling like you didn't belong in that class. If a class is open to everyone, then you are entitled to be there, period. Your classmates may be about to learn that they can lose their right to be there if they can't behave like respectful adults. My husband and I have children before our marriage. He, 3, and I, 2, all over 30. We've known each other for 6 years. After my son left home, I rented the house and bought a smaller one with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, one room being my office and another normal. My husband and I have lived together in my house for 2 years, and we split the bills half. But because my husband lost his old job and isn't earning as much in the new one, the bills are 3/4 for me. Our house is not a good place to receive visitors, especially for a long time, because they have to stay on a mattress in the living room. I don't let them sleep in the office because that is my place of work. Currently, I'm almost 80% of my appointments on video call. I'm a psychologist. So I need a reserved place. There are a lot of patient documents, so no visits there. One of my husband's children, Logan, 32 male, is visiting our country, 5 years abroad, and after staying at his mother's house, he came to see my husband. We invite him to stay for a few days. My husband is over the moon with Logan present, and although I say our house is not the best place for long visits, he insists that Logan stay at home for another 2 weeks. The first week after that went fine. But Friday, my husband came to talk to me, suggesting that in these last days, that Logan stays here. He stay in the office, puts things against the wall, because he wants to accommodate his son better, and it's sad to see him not having the least privacy even to sleep. I remembered my warning about not being the best place for this and that I'm not giving up my office because I work in it. He started to say that the comfort of a visitor should come first and that I can use our room as a place of work, and he leaves the room for that. It would only be a few days like this, 10 days. I was pretty annoyed and said, look, if my job is important to keep the house bills paid, then really, work comes first. It's a few days, but 8 days, I have patients all morning, afternoon. You knew the house wasn't the best place for this and insisted. So it's on you. But my office is essential to my work. He began to say that I was rubbing his face and that I only support the house, but as my partner, I should be committed to helping my stepson get comfort. He's mad at me for keeping my answer, and honestly, I've never noticed anything from Logan. I just really feel that if the office were his place of work, it wouldn't be an option. AITA. The other 20%, I work in another city for a clinic with these patients. NTA. If you don't have a lock on that door, I'd get one. I wouldn't be surprised if you come back to find he'd moved things around anyway with how he keeps going on about it. Allowing people into your office is just asking for a data breach. If he doesn't understand by now how important that space is to your work, he never will. NTA. I don't know Logan's financial situation, but if he gets in that room, he may not leave it. Every point you laid out is valid. You need to work. You need privacy. You could literally be violating HIPAA if you allow him access to the files.